let's start talking about the Adam Driver news. So, this was a big kind of bombshell that dropped in an interview with the Associated Press. Adam Driver revealed that he and Steven Soderbergh, along with others, had been putting together a script for a post Rise of Skywalker movie focused on the redemption of Ben Solo. That was ultimately killed by Disney CEO Bob Iger and the head of Disney Films, Alan Bergman. So, according to Driver, he says, I was always interested in doing another Star Wars. I've been in talks about doing another one since 2021. Kathleen Kennedy reached out. I always said, with a great director and great story, I'd be there in a second. I loved the character and I loved playing him. We presented the script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. They totally understood our angle and why we were doing it. We took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, and they said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was alive, and that was that. It was called The Hunt for Ben Solo, and it was really cool, but it is no more, so I can finally talk about it. There must be a reason why you're talking about it now, unless it is maybe it was still up in the air on like maybe this could possibly happen, even though they said no. Maybe they just said no in the last year. It doesn't really make sense if the project originally came about in 2021. Bob Iger wasn't back in the fold until 2022, the end of 2022. So if it was Bob Iger that he pitched it to, it had to be 2023 most likely. So it's been post 2023 that the official pitch was denied. But still, there's a lot of information here and a lot of speculation. I mean, this type of stuff happens all the time when it comes to talent and actors, especially. I made a video over 2 years ago about how I thought Ben Solo would be coming back into the story. I think it only makes sense. I mean, we basically got no Ben Solo. We've had basically no Ben Solo in the entirety of canon. I've always thought that he was, by giving his life's force to Rey, part because they're a dyad, almost becoming part of her. Like he's like a voice in her head. That's what more my theory has always been, that he would be a voice in her head, kind of was his spirit within him, within her, because he doesn't show up at the end. He's like an incomplete form almost. His spirit has merged with hers in some way. And I thought, through the whatever Star Wars magic they want to do or explanation they want to bring up or force whatever they want to do, they could find a way to maybe go from a dyad to one being to back to a dyad again and be able to almost pull his soul out of her and reincarnate / resurrect Ben Solo in a way if they wanted to do that. The most interesting thing is it's post Rise of Skywalker, right? So Ben Solo's alive. We do know that Steven Soderbergh has never watched The Rise of Skywalker. He is somebody who seems to religiously rewatch Star Wars, or at least was while writing the script. In 2023 and 2024, he logged the Attack of the Clones, The Phantom Menace, and A New Hope twice on his account, as well as The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Revenge of the Sith, Solo, and Rogue One all once each year, and then didn't watch any of the sequels and has said he's never seen The Rise of Skywalker. So is this like a full-on retcon? You could almost do this kind of introspective movie where everything happens through Ben Solo and the whole mystery is like, well, why is he alive? What's going on? Where is he? How is this post Rise of Skywalker? What's going on? It's almost this kind of like purgatory-esque story of like him being pulled back into reality. And then at the end, it's kind of revealed that he's whatever he goes through spiritually kind of brings him back to the real world. I think that would have been really interesting. I mean, that's a hard sell for an audience, right? It's another one of those like, it was all a dream type of things, but I think it could have been interesting. But regardless, I think what everybody can agree on is the fact that Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh, who's been a very prolific filmmaker for 30 years, wanting to make a Star Wars movie and it doesn't happen is kind of a shock. And I think anytime you get somebody as prolific as Steven Soderbergh interested in franchise filmmaking, I think you should jump on it. But what are your thoughts, Sonic, on what the story could have been, whether this could happen in the future, and just overall the whole project we have learned a little bit of more information over the last couple days about it?
I think some of you guys might have never actually been on Star Wars Lads before, so welcome to our channel. I think Soderbergh, what he just said, like, oh, I had a lot of fun making this movie in my head, but we're not going to see it, right? I think that's absolute bait. There's no way, especially with this being fully reported as like an interview with Adam Driver on AP News, the Associated Press, right? Like that's as neutral as it gets. That's as factual as it gets. I think it's gonna be made. I think just the way I've seen the fandom react, like it's been a very quiet 4 or 5 months, and this having the level of like this feels like almost like a movie is ready to come out. Like this feels like how it was during the peak days of talking about the sequels, talking about the anticipation, all the theories, all the leaks, right? It doesn't seem accidental. It seems very much like, yeah, you said no, but let's test out the fandom. So when I say bait, maybe it's a little bit more accurate to say it's like a fishing lure. Seeing just how like fervent everybody, the haters and the diehards are just like, yes, why would this be canceled? Why would you take away the most talented actor and like the linchpin, arguably, of the entire trilogy, a director who's had such notable classics and is just such an efficient filmmaker, and you have this whole idea, and then you have him researching and, like, leaving all these clues and stuff, and then going to this big AP News interview, which has him talking a lot about Adam Driver's career and everything else, and doubling down on how much he actually really does enjoy the character, that everyone was like, "Oh, he doesn't wanna actually come back. Driver's done with Star Wars." You mentioned before that he wanted that inverse Vader that never came about, and come on, like, it's frustrating to hear that Iger and Bergman can say no because they don't really see how this would work. Episode 9 is a patchwork of ideas. It is literally as corporate as a Star Wars film unfortunately gets, and Star Wars has never truly been like a corporate franchise. Adam Driver could have taken another step forward, just as great as he was in 7, just as even better as he was in 8. For him to not get a single line as Ben Solo, this being rejected is like, okay, like, wow, this it's kinda shocking. When you know Episode 9 did not deliver to the same level that you expected for this to be the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. It boggles my mind. Like, Kathleen, for all the, criticism that she's gotten, some justified, a lot definitely not. It's really disheartening to see that she was like, "Yeah, I'd love to develop this idea." They got it to a full script stage, and Iger and Bergman were like, no, I don't see how that would work when we have somehow Palpatine return, right?" It's a bit of an overblown line in Episode 9, but still, like, we just had seen that happen less than 5 years before, and you're saying you can't see in any shape or form Ben Solo being revived. That's frustrating. I've honestly been pretty happy for with a lot of the stuff that's come out of the Disney era. I think that they have made good choices, even with the streaming bubble exploding and all that. This is just a decision where it's like you're going back to the heart of what it meant to like make Star Wars, with a very artistic vision, with talent that really wants to be around, with the opportunity to continue the sequel cast when they're so close to their age, when they concluded the sequel trilogy, which was not afforded to the prequel trilogy cast. And you're like, no, I don't believe that this idea would work for the character. It's frustrating. I'm not mad because I think this is literally a very calculated move, and there's no way Iger and the Disney board doesn't know something like this is coming out. In some shape or form, I think this has to happen now. It could have been very mixed in with the world between worlds. It could have been very much like Force Ghost. It could have been him being trapped in the dyad with the netherworld of the Force, flipping and switching bodies, like I mentioned before with Rey. This can also become another film featuring Rey, right? And if you want to use that character, this could be like a big adventure for her a couple years after everything going on with Starfighter, and you can build out all these other characters. It slots in so nicely conceptually to me. If it needs adjustments, I think this is one of the most malleable concepts out there. I'm just so confused with why that decision has come about, and I really hope that it gets undone.
I mean, this is the first step, right? Checking the pulse of the fandom, seeing if anybody wants this. From a business perspective, I understand taking a step back from the sequels as a whole. They did, for the most part. I understand wanting to take a step back from Star Wars film and readjust and refigure all this out. But what I don't understand is like just purely canceling it from a story perspective. If it was just we don't really see how this fits Kylo Ren, we don't see why he's alive, which they also, Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh, yet to reveal why he's alive still post Rise of Skywalker. So there still could be some questions that, like, obviously we didn't hear the pitch. So as fans, maybe the pitch was just crazy and they just thought, nobody's going to watch this type of movie if it was some type of spiritual thing. I think when you have the talent, they're asking to be part of franchise filmmaking. Adam Driver is by far your biggest draw in terms of actors in your trilogy. He's the one that approached Soderbergh, not Soderbergh approached him. Lucasfilm reached out to him. So like if Lucasfilm was interested in making a Kylo Ren movie or bringing Kylo Ren back or making a Ben Solo movie in some fashion, then why did they drop it after this project was made? Why didn't they just say, well, let's go in another direction, or let's go with another type of Ben Solo story? Because why didn't they keep going with development on that? There's got to be another little missing piece here on why they just dropped the idea of a Ben Solo movie altogether. I hope it does happen. I mean, I think it's interesting when you look at the landscape of the post-sequel films. You've got Starfighter coming in a little less than 2 years. You've got this Rey movie that's up in flux, which personally to me, I would rather wait on the Rey movie now if we were able to bring Ben back before the Rey movie, because I just think they work so much better as a duo. And maybe that's the missing piece for the Rey movie, is having Ben there. We haven't talked about in almost a year the Kinberg stuff. And the Kinberg story originally, if I remember correctly, it was not announced that he was directing anything. He was writing and producing. Could this movie somehow get folded into whatever he was working on as maybe a first chapter? Which is also kind of another weird one, right? Because legally, you can't write a script for a project that you aren't greenlit to make if it's a copyrighted project. You can't legally write your own Ben Solo movie and then pitch it to Lucasfilm. They have to have already agreed to give you the money and make it before you're allowed to write the script.
Right.
So that's where none of this kind of makes sense too, is like if there was actually a script being written, then there was either miscommunication or they backtracked on it late, or the script thing is an overstatement by Soderbergh and Adam Driver that there was an outline maybe, but there wasn't actually a script. Because that's where I think one of the most interesting parts of this whole saga is just like if there was actually a script, that means Lucasfilm told them to go ahead based on their pitch to Lucasfilm. And then later on, Disney decided, hey, we don't want to do this. We don't like the idea. Or maybe they read the initial draft of the script and that's when they decided not to do it anymore, but they were okay with it on initial pitch. None of this really adds up. So I think that's another thing we're going to have to figure out over time. But I'm really hoping that they do see the fan enthusiasm around this. There's quite a bit of enthusiasm and backlash around this whole thing. We'll see if these people actually would have shown up for this film. But I do think if you had one bankable star from the sequels, it is Adam Driver. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. This was actually a clip from our live streaming Q&A, where we're going to be starting a new thing called the Fan Question of the Week.
These are sourced from our weekly live Q&As that are every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this is a great chance for you guys to engage with us and we can have some great conversation on the lives. So make sure to try to join us on Tuesdays.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this, and comment below. Let us know your thoughts on this video. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.